thanks, Emily. Tonight's agenda, we've got item number 1, a public forum. Item number 2 is the growth management overview by staff. And then agenda item number 3 is a hearing for the 3 residential projects that are being considered for allocation tonight. First up is the public forum. This is an opportunity for people participating here in the room and participating by Zoom to address the board on items not on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone present here in the room that would like to address the board or on Zoom?
No chats and no raised hands on Zoom.
Okay, next up, agenda item number 2, growth management overview. Emily?
Thanks, Pete. So what follows on my screen is the area map for the town of Williston. And tonight is growth management, where the Development Review Board is allocating new residential units to 3 main areas of town. The growth center, shown in red, which includes the form-based code area. I'll get into that in a moment, with the light hatching. The sewer service area outside the growth center is shown in yellow. And then the agricultural rural district outside of the sewer service area is shown in green. The 3 projects this evening are in the growth center in red and the sewer service area in yellow. The blue areas of the map are Williston's industrial districts, where residential uses are not allowed. So growth management is approved by the Development Review Board, and it's one of the many paths for constructing new dwellings in Williston. Outside of the Taft Corners Form-Based Code District, TCFBC, all new dwellings must receive pre-application and discretionary permit review from the DRB. Some projects must also participate in growth management, and there's 3 participating this evening. Tonight, the DRB will score and review the projects based on the most recent version of the Unified Development Bylaw, most recently amended January 16th, 2024. Staff wants to note that representations made by applicants at this meeting, in the questionnaire or at the hearing, are binding, and they must be fulfilled in all subsequent permits. If changes are proposed at discretionary permit that significantly alter a growth management score, the project may not be approvable. There are some projects that are not participating in growth management tonight. So DP 2211 Rice, they withdrew and forfeited their allocation they received in 2021. DP 2406 Glazer, Rivers Edge Development, they are not participating because they're going to pursue specific plan. DP 2408 McCullough is not participating. They've indicated to me that they plan to proceed under inclusionary zoning, which I'll explain further in a moment. And DP 2402 Willard, 2405 Fournier, and 2409 Benedetto. Each of these projects propose fewer than 4 units each, and therefore are fully exempt from growth management. Table A is a summary of the recent changes to growth management. So going back to October 2022, when form-based code was adopted, the standards were revised whereby form-based code projects get their allocation administratively by the zoning administrator rather than the Development Review Board. Significant changes to this chapter were adopted in October 2023. Small projects proposing 4 or fewer units are fully exempted from the growth management process. Inclusionary zoning was adopted as an alternative to growth management and to encourage the inclusion of affordable homes in new development projects. With that, there is a payment in lieu requirement, a fee for any project that is not proposing affordable homes. The minimum score was increased from 30 to 40 points, and slow build, which was the successor to expiration, was also eliminated. The most recent amendment in January 16th was for the adoption of the Glazer specific plan. However, that's not something that the DRB really needs to worry about, even though the most recent bylaw that we're looking at says January 16th. It's functionally the same for your purposes as October 17th. Table B is a table that shows how the permit process is different depending on where the project is located and what kind of project. So at the bottom of the table is Taft Corners form-based code, where allocation happens administratively. If you're not in the form-based code district, if you're constructing new dwellings, if you're 4 or fewer, you're exempted from growth management. You go from pre-application to discretionary permit. If you're proposing 5 to 9 units, you either need to have one home that's affordable or be a market rate project. And if your project has 10 or more units, you're either inclusionary with various levels of affordability, or you're a market rate project and you're subject to that pay in lieu fee. There's a different process if you're converting an existing structure, for example, an existing office building or a hotel. So before, every residential unit in town had to go through growth management. Now the table highlights in yellow the 2 types of projects that have to go through the Development Review Board process this evening. Inclusionary zoning. So projects that include affordable homes can proceed without growth management. They go from pre-app review to discretionary permit. And if they propose more than 10 units and they're not inclusionary, then there is a payment in lieu requirement. There is one project this evening that would be subject to that fee if their reallocation request is approved tonight. Section 11.4 of the bylaw is the residential growth target. So the town's growth target is 80 dwelling unit equivalents per year. Most of them, 50, are in the growth center, 20 are in the sewer service area outside the growth center, and just 10 are outside the sewer service area. The DRB or zoning administrator can also shift units from outside the growth center into the growth center. So on that large table you see in your packets, you'll see that we shifted 10 of those units. There's no projects competing in that rural part of town this year. Dwelling unit equivalent is used in growth management, whereby a studio or a 1-bedroom dwelling is half a DUE, and a unit with 2 or more bedrooms is 1 DUE. 11.5 growth management procedure. So new developments must complete pre-application in the preceding year, and as of those October 2023 amendments, projects that have partial allocation that are, quote, in the queue, they are automatically eligible to participate. Applicants are notified of growth management in January, and they must submit their questionnaires by March 1st. The DRB has copies of the applicants' questionnaires in their packets. The DRB evaluates and ranks the projects based on the criteria of 11.7 through 11.9, and then they allocate the growth target. And applicants are notified by a written decision. 11.6 allocation rules. So most of these rules are baked into the allocation table, which you have on 11/17 paper in your packets, and I'll also share here. So this table visualizes the 50 units in the growth center, the 20 in the residential, outside sewer service area, and then it breaks them up by fiscal year. So there's this 10-year rolling cycle. This table that the DRB is looking at is fiscal year 2025, which would start on July 1st of this year, 2024, and it runs fiscal year 2025 to 2034. You can also see in the growth center where we've shifted those 10 units from outside the growth center into the growth center. The DRB may also notice on this table that it doesn't talk about affordable units. So in years past, there were separate columns, one for market rate, one for affordable. Because affordable units are now this whole separate inclusionary zoning process, everything on this table is for market rate allocation. There are some prior projects that were allocated years ago. You might see an asterisk A next to them. That's indicating that that was an affordable unit from prior years, and we're just carrying that old rule forward for those existing projects. Other rules that are baked into this table and baked into what is proposed by staff, that's shown in red, that no more than 75% in any given year can go to one project. And the gray shading indicates that no more than 50% is available more than 2 years out, and no more than 75% 1 year out. So that's why some cells on this table are shaded gray. Staff does note that in the growth center in form-based code, the zoning administrator can put units in the white cells or the gray cells anywhere on this table. And you will see in the Growth Center in fiscal year 25 and 26, there is an AP number referenced where a form-based code project got allocation earlier this year. Construction of units, allocation does not expire, and as of October 2023, that slow build provision was also eliminated. The only deadlines are to file a discretionary permit and to file final plans like any other development in town.
Emily, could you explain to the audience what slow build means?
Yes, thank you, Pete. So slow build was a provision in the bylaw for projects that had a lot of units. They could only pull a certain number of administrative permits every year. So after 5 years, your allocation was slow build. You could only pull a couple of units. It works well for smaller projects that only have a couple units, and it basically doesn't affect them. And it encourages projects that have an apartment building. You know, you can't pull a 30-unit apartment building permit 3 units at a time. It encourages those larger projects to come back in and get reallocated. So it was a provision that was intended to encourage projects to keep on pace or revise their project. There's no more slow build or expiry. So once a unit is available on that allocation table, the development can build any units that it has across the board. So the evaluation criteria, there's 3 areas of town, so there's 3 sets of evaluation criteria. Tonight, the DRB is really focused on 11.7 and 11.8 because those are where we have projects being proposed. And these criteria were also amended in October 2023 and carried over in January 2024. So this table visualizes those changes. There's currently 8 criteria. Formerly, there were 11. The criteria that were eliminated are shown in orange, and the criteria that gained points are shown in blue. No new criteria were added. The conserve energy criteria was substantially revised, so there's new options to score points in that category, as well as more points. It increased from 10 to 30 points. Build affordable housing was eliminated across the board because of that inclusionary zoning process that was added into the bylaw. Offer housing choices stays the same. Provide neighborhood space increased by 10 points. Build close to services was eliminated. Neighborhood design gained 5 points. Build paths and trails gained 10 points in the outside sewer service area. Conserve open space, sustainable transportation, and minimize visual impact all stayed the same, and design for context was eliminated across the board. There's options to score 100 points, and 5 bonus points are available in the 11.8 sewer service area outside Growth Center part of town. So part 2 of my staff report, the review for this evening. Each applicant has submitted a questionnaire, and they have described how their project addresses the criteria. Planning staff have reviewed their responses and have generated a proposed score for each project. And the allocation table proposes a schedule with the allocation rules in mind. As proposed, all projects score at or above the minimum 40 points. So the annex this evening, DP 21-18, is looking for 35.5 DUEs of allocation. 20-18 Summerfield is looking for 24.5 DUE, and Sally's Way is looking to reallocate 3 affordable to 3 market rate. The proposed scores for each project are 52 for the annex, 70 for Summerfield, and 40 for Sally's Way. And what follows, table 3, is just a different visualization of what's shown in red on the 11/17 table, where following the allocation rules, all projects can get their requested allocation. Part 3 of the staff report are proposed findings and motions. So in years past, we've done the motions by the 3 growth areas. Because we have 2 major projects, the annex and Summerfield that were approved and are partially vested in the previous version of the bylaw, we have specific findings that codifies their requirements. Both of those projects scored points under the old criteria where affordable housing was incentivized, and we're just codifying that those carry forward in their approval, and just keeping a clear record of the scores and allocation over the different years. And with that, that's the overall staff report. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Emily. Comprehensive as usual. Okay, so now we're going to go to the individual projects that are seeking allocation. And first up is DP 21-18, the annex. Who is present for that project? If you would please come to the front table.
I'm going to recuse myself.
Okay, thank you. Chris and Andy, welcome. If you would state your name and address for the record, please.
Andy Rowe, the Snyder Williston Properties LLC.
Chris Snyder, Snyder Williston Properties LLC.
Staff is next.
Thanks, Pete. So this is DP 21-18, the annex. It proposes 276 dwelling units as 241 DUEs. The two parcels were created in 1995, and there's one existing dwelling with 2 bedrooms. The annex is located on a property just under 55 acres in the Taft Corners zoning district. Parts of it are currently under construction behind VSC CU Bank off of Route 2A. So this is the 3rd time that the annex will participate in growth management. In 2022, it scored 54 points and received 173.5 DUEs allocation, including 28 DUEs as affordable. In 2023, it scored 56 points and received 31 DUE market. Staff is proposing a score of 52 points. No comment letters were received at the time of mailout nor up to this evening. And what staff proposes is allocating all remaining allocation that's needed, 35.5 DUE market. Staff notes that when we scored the project, so for example, in neighborhood space, the criteria went from 10 points, and last time they scored 10 out of 10, so we just increased it to 20 points. So where a score changed, we just appropriately multiplied that score. So they got full points when it was 10 out of 10. They get full points when it's 20 out of 20. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Emily. Chris and Andy, anything to add to staff report?
No.
DRB members, questions? Members of the audience, either present or participating by Zoom. Any questions or comments?
I have no raised hands on Zoom.
Okay, last chance for questions, comments. DRB members, members of the audience.
Just one question, just for the record. There are no changes to your site plan. This is simply a recalculating of the scores from previous applications.
Okay, yep. Anything else?
Nope. This was easy.
Yep. Okay. I'm going to close this hearing, this application as 7:23. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is DP 20-18, Summerfield. Who is present for the applicant?
Pete, I'm going to be recusing myself on this one as
Okay.
a budding landowner.
Chris and Brian, welcome. If you would state your name and address for the record, please.
Brian Courier, Larry Burke Civil Associates, representing Ethan Allen Homes. Chris Senesak, Ethan Allen Homes, 86 Ethan Allen Drive, South Burlington, Vermont.
Thank you. Emily?
Yep. This is DP 20-18 Summerfield, formerly known as Catamount Golf or Catamount Country Club. So this is their fourth time participating in growth management. Summerfield proposes 141 dwelling units as 122 DUE at 1400 Mountain View Road, a parcel just over 30 acres in the residential zoning district. Staff proposes a score of 70 points. One comment letter was received at the time of mail-out from the applicant's attorney. No further comment letters were received up to today. So staff recommends that score of 70 points, as well as allocating all remaining units, which is 24.5 DUE market rate. To date, they've been awarded 18 affordable and 73 market rate, including 6.5 DUE that are affordable at 80% AMI. So a reminder, under those old growth management rules, units at or below 80% area median income weren't shown on that table. So Summerfield is vested in and must uphold prior commitments made in 21, 22, and 2023. And they're also vested in a discretionary permit with the density bonus, where 30% of the dwellings are affordable at or below 80% or 100% AMI. So that older growth management score for affordable housing had tiers at 80, 100, and 120% AMI. Rather than building units at 120%, they're building them all at that, or 120%, they're building them at that 100% level to concurrently meet the growth management score and the density bonus. What follows is the staff score. So following that same methodology, where 10 out of 10 points was scored in 2023, they're getting 20 out of 20 points under these criteria. And what follows are notes on that affordability requirement. Staff does note on sustainable transportation that they're showing 6 carpool spaces, 6 car share, that kind of thing, where they would only be required to provide 5. So the reason is in the scoring criteria, the number of sustainable transportation features are based on per 25 DUE. In 2022, the overall project was based on more dwelling units, therefore the math factored out to 6. Now there's fewer units, so they only have to do 5 EV charge, 5 car share, 5 carpool, and 10 bike storage. I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Brian and Chris, any comments on the staff report?
Only one. As Emily mentioned, Ed Fitzpatrick submitted a comment letter. Essentially what it boils down to is this project's in a little bit of a unique situation where we started the growth management process in 2021, and this is I believe our 4th year coming back, hoping it to be the last. And obviously growth management has changed substantially over the last year. So the letter is basically acknowledging that this project should be vested in the version of the bylaw that we gained our discretionary permit under, which is the 2022 version of the bylaw. Whether that can be incorporated in this decision as a finding of fact, we'd request that either the letter would be referenced or potentially a acknowledgement that the project's vested under the 2022 version of the bylaw. And I think the reason the attorney had the question was we're using the updated scoring sheet that's part of the newest version of the bylaw, but we're vested under the 2022 version. And we're still scoring 70 points, a very high scoring project. So we were okay moving forward with the new scoring system, but just one acknowledgement that the 2022 version of the bylaw would be utilized when issuing administrative permits for the project.
Brian, if you're approved tonight, it effectively, without the board actively acknowledging that letter, which none of us are lawyers, but if the board approves it, it effectively does the same thing.
Well, we would like to ask that the letter that was dated February 28th from BP&F, along with the associated paperwork, which also includes the old affordability housing restrictive covenant, and then the methodology to gain that. And the reason we're asking for that is simply this, is that, you know, we love Emily and we love Matt, but they may or may not be here forever. And if I'm faced with somebody down the road that's taken their place, that has no knowledge of this, and there's nothing around to solidify my position, I'm gonna have to explain myself. And it's just a general assumption that people do move on, and maybe they don't. But we would ask that this become part of the decision if in fact they are approved tonight for that reason.
Okay.
So, so there's, acknowledge your concern. So did you read the proposed, staff's proposed, authorization? And the reason, and I don't have any problem doing what you said, but I don't think it's necessary. And here's why. It references the proposed motion. I'm not going to read the beginning part of it. It's kind of boilerplate, but having reviewed the applicant's questionnaire, the recommendations of the town staff, and having heard and duly considered the testimony, it references what's in this packet, which includes the attorney letter. It includes the vested rights. It includes what you are asking for.
Yeah, it's our opinion that we can never have enough clarity, I guess.
We could add a finding of fact that references the date that the discretionary permit was approved, so like the first one and then the subsequent phased amendments, because that affordability covenant all comes out of those discretionary permit conditions of approval. So I think adding a finding here, referencing those discretionary permit approval dates, I think would help.
Yeah, our attorney just felt that if this became part of the decision, that there would be no question down the road as to what type of procedure you use in order to establish what's affordable and what's not, because that has changed quite dramatically from what we got approved on, and that's all we're asking. So, if that works.
Noted. DRB members, any questions for the applicant?
I'm just interested, since this is the second one where we had conserve energy with a score of 0, so the new rules around that scoring, I'd just like your thoughts on this.
Well, the first round of conserve energy was dead on arrival, and I think you probably saw that from the application.
No one really stepped up.
Honestly, we really didn't dig into the next opinion as to what they wanted for conserve energy. You know, we just thought the first one was reaching for the sky and being on a ladder, and you know, we just felt that it was a no-go to begin with. And so we did not look hard at you know, what the new regulations are asking for. Obviously, we would have to change everything over and become part of the new plan. We like the old plan, so
Okay,
that's fine.
fair enough, thank you.
Yeah, it used to be more of an all or nothing category. Now there's, you know, stages to it. You know, electric heat pumps are considered, and the project may end up utilizing that sort of technology, but we'd like to have that still be a voluntary process, given that we're still 70-point scoring process, or project, rather.
Oh, I agree completely. I was
Yeah,
just
so
interested.
that's mainly the reason.
Thank you.
Brian's got a good point. We've been in contact with Vermont Gas. There is some question as to whether or not they'll even service our project for a variety of reasons. And, you know, if we have to go to heat pumps, I'm not crazy about it, but, you know, if that's what happens, that's what happens. So we may meet part of the requirements for conserve energy without having scored any points, but it's just a facet of what we want to bring to market.
Fair enough, thank you.
Good question. Anything else from DRB members? Scott? Members of the audience, any questions for the board? That includes people on Zoom.
Reminder to folks on Zoom to comment in the chat or press the raise hand button if you'd like to speak. No chats and no raised hands.
Okay, any final comments? Chris and Brian?
Also, no.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna close DP 20-18 at 7:34. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is DP 21-05. Who is here representing the applicant? How are you, Carl?
Good evening. Carl Marshall, Larry Burke, 13 Corporate Drive, Essex.
Thank you. Staff goes next.
I will note that Scott Michaud is on Zoom.
Okay.
So this is DP 21-05 Michaud, also known as Sally's Way. They are seeking reallocation for 3 affordable units to become 3 market rate units. Overall, there are 15 dwelling units proposed as 15 DUE at 230 Mountain View Road, a parcel just over 10 acres in the residential zoning district. There is 1 dwelling existing, so there's 14 new homes proposed. Staff is proposing a score of 40 points. No comment letters were received at the time of mail-out, nor were any letters or emails received to date. Staff is proposing a score of 40 points and the allocation of 3 market rate. Of the 14 DUE originally required and allocated to this project, only 5 are seen on the table, that FY 25 to 33 table. Some of the years have fallen off, and then one of those units was affordable at 80% AMI, which wasn't even shown on the table to begin with. If the reallocation request is approved, this project will be subject to the inclusionary zoning pay in lieu provision of WDB 1137, because it will be a project proposing all market rate units and more than 10 units. The DRB does not need to make any decisions about that fee. Like impact fees, it's handled administratively by the planning staff. After growth management, the project would file a minor amendment to final plans, noting on their civil plan set that all the units are market rate, no affordables. And then that fee that's paid goes into the town's housing trust fund. It's managed by the select board with recommendations of the housing committee. To note, that fee would be $49,000. But the DRB doesn't need to worry about the fee. So there's 15 dwelling units existing and proposed. There's 1 unit dwelling that's there today, 1 unit at 80% AMI. So there were 13 that got allocation previously. And because those older units have fallen off, there's new units that are shown on the table, so we don't have to cross anything off the older year because those older years have just fallen off. What follows is the staff recommended score. So we did the same thing where the score is carried over. For example, a score of 3 out of 10 for neighborhood space in 2021 is equivalent to 6 out of 20 today. Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. Carl, do you have anything to add to the staff report?
No, she does a great job, doesn't she?
Yes, she does. Yes, she does. Okay, DRB members, comments, questions?
This may be a question for Emily. Proposed staff, conserve energy. I'm trying to get up to speed on it. So you have a 10?
Yeah, so they are proposing 10 points in the conserve energy category. The minimum score increased from 30 to 40 points. So in order to get those 40 points, they proposed 10 in the conserve energy criteria, which means half of the homes. And it's a new criteria, so let me make sure I quote it correctly. Yep, half of the homes will use cold climate heat pumps, ground source heat pumps, or geothermal. So they're proposing to do the heat pumps in half of the homes, half of the proposed homes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I've got one. You've got 5 points for build paths and trails, and I'm just curious, looking at the plan here, why the sidewalk was not continued on both sides of the proposed road?
Yep.
Can't recall.
It was on wetlands.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we were trying to not minimize, minimization of it, of wetlands and associated buffers.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Good question, though. But I think we spent a lot of time with that with staff, because we kind of went back and forth with that. That was the rationale. And we're not proposing any changes to the plan.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember that from the DRB review with balancing what the bylaw wants sidewalks on both sides of new roads, but also wants to minimize impact into wetland areas. So the compromise was making sure there's crosswalks to connect. All the homes have a sidewalk outside their front door.
Okay.
Any other questions, DRB members?
Yes.
John?
So on neighborhood design, it's getting 10 points. Was that, I'm a little confused when it says scoring option 0 to 10 and then it says +5. Does that mean there were 5 added from, it was 5 before and now it's 10?
No, there are 5 bonus points in that category. So you can get, the maximum score you could have in this district is 105 points. So you can get 100 points and then there's an option for 5 bonus points.
And what would qualify you for the extra 5?
I believe it is doing some kind of dedication.
Oh, okay. I only asked because this project had gotten the maximum number of points in that category, and previously tonight, we'd been kind of pulling across the maximum number of points available in that category.
Right, so it used to be 0 to 5 points plus 5 bonus points, which would have been a maximum 10.
Okay.
Now it's 0 to 10 plus 5 bonus
I
points,
gotcha.
maximum
Okay.
15. That additional 1 to 5 points is permanent protection of open space, so via a conservation easement or dedication to the town.
I see, and that's not part of this proposal?
Correct, it would just be private,
Okay.
open, common land, homeowners association common land.
Okay. And the other question I had was on providing neighborhood space. What was the score previously on that? I'm having a hard time finding the
All
right
good.
charts.
On page 2, under the table, there's a staff score explanation, so they got neighborhood space 3 out of 10 in 2021, which is equivalent to 6 out of 20 today.
Oh, there we go.
In the middle of the development on the site plan, there's a little
Gotcha.
pavilion proposed.
All right, good, thank you.
And Emily, on a 15 DUE, how many would be affordable if they weren't doing payment in lieu?
So they would have been required to have 3, one at 80%, one at 100%, and one at 120% area median income.
Right.
And what will that payment in lieu be? I know we're not concerned with it, but out of curiosity.
49,000.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Okay, members of the audience, questions for the DRB? Sir, if you would please come to the table and state your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Carl Fowler from 178 Meadow Run Road. And I have a couple of questions that may simply resolve my concerns. And they're not aimed at this particular project, but at both of the projects that would sort of occupy that farm that is going to basically be redeveloped by Michaud and then also McCullough. The first is, as originally proposed, there was a road in this development that sort of headed towards the McCullough land space, but just terminated. And then I believe in a later version of it that vanished. Is there planned to be internally a connection to the McCullough project?
We're providing that on the plat. We haven't have any communication with the adjacent development.
So there may be such a connection.
There may be.
How many exits to Mountain View will there be? This has evolved since the version of this that we in Meadow Run saw.
So, I'm gonna give you a little bit of latitude. Tonight is growth management, and so what you're talking about is really more scrutiny of the project plan. We're not here to do that tonight. We're here to score the project based on the growth management
I'll
criteria.
withdraw the question, although I think it's a reasonable question to ask. It's not confrontational, I simply want to know how many exits there are going to be. But I note your reluctance to present it, and I withdraw the question. My final one now is a philosophical one. The project has gone from providing for low-income housing, or at least moderate-income housing, to none, because it changed apparently its category. What did the town feel it gained institutionally or in terms of the interests of the citizens by basically adopting this new inclusion versus simply you can have all that you want kind of system, except we give you $49,000 to not do what we first said we were going to do? Why is the town feeling that's the benefit of the citizens? What are we actually getting out of that? Is there a pot of money that will help us with other projects later?
You hit it on the nose. That's it. There's a pot of money over time. It's not just one project doesn't solve the entire problem that the town has.
Does the town still have objectives to accomplish a certain number of affordable housing units?
Depends on the projects that come before
Only
the
depends on
town.
the project, so there's no longer any town target at a particular...
No, I think there's probably a town target, but it's going to be based on the developers who are bringing projects before the town for approval.
When do we expect the McCullough project to come back for its new revised version? They were originally on the list for tonight and they vanished, so when do we expect them to?
Yeah, I think they'll file a discretionary permit this year. They have 1 year from that pre-application, which that sketch plan took place in December of 2023, so they have a year from that date to file a complete discretionary permit. Because they are planning to be inclusionary zoning, they don't have to go to growth management tonight. They can go straight from pre-app to discretionary permit. You bring up a good question about that road connection, and I would like to address it. Their site plan shows the wetland extending in a different way, whereas the Michaud development, where their wetland was delineated on their property, would have allowed for that connection. The site plan for McCullough shows the wetland being a little bit different along the property line, where that road connection might not be feasible. So both the town zoning standards and state wetland rules like to discourage incursions into wetlands, like to discourage road crossings as much as possible. So in the Michaud review, it looked like it might be a possibility, and we asked them to plat in that right-of-way. In the McCullough wetland delineation, it's not looking like it's going to be able to move in a route where these two developments can reasonably connect. But we're anticipating they would file their discretionary permit at some point this year. To your other question, the philosophical questions.
Emily, let me interrupt you for 1 second and
Yeah.
say that the description Emily just gave you is for a project that has neither been proposed nor approved. So nobody knows.
Or reviewed.
Right, complete conjecture.
My last following question then was, when might we expect to see revised maps for the two developments? If you're approving going forward with Michaud tonight, which I am not opposing necessarily.
I understand.
I'm just trying to get information. If we're approving going ahead, when might we expect to see, there on the board is a map that I at least at home couldn't find, and I dug deep trying to find those maps today and could only find the scorings. When might we expect to see those? My deepest concern actually is about the placement of a settling pond for wastewater in the McCullough development, but
So for the Michaud project, which we're reviewing tonight, they have their complete final plan review. So we have an entire civil plan set for roads, utilities, water, sewer lines, etc., stormwater, ponds and basins. For the McCullough project, we don't have that yet. If and when they file a complete discretionary permit, then you'll see the concept plan that's shown here worked out in more detail where utilities are gonna connect, how stormwater is gonna be managed. The McCullough project proposed a couple of concept plans with different unit types and layouts, so at discretionary permit, that's when we would also know, they would hone in the details of,
We're obviously a long way from having
Yeah.
those designs, and I'm satisfied. Thank you.
yeah.
What you need to do is you need to get your name with Emily, so when the thing does come before the DRB, you're
Yeah.
notified so you can.
I will do so. I'm satisfied.
Okay,
You've
great.
answered my questions and been extremely responsive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else from the audience that would like to address the board?
Oh, cool, thank you.
Anybody on Zoom? Any raised hands?
We have no raised hands on Zoom.
Okay, DRB members, last chance for questions?
Good.
Carl, you good?
I'm good. I'd just like to know, and I'm sure you've read it, we're anticipating putting heat pumps in, mainly for maybe heating and AC. And, there could very well be all the units, so we'd have scored a higher score, but sounding like, feedback from the board, like we're all set. And kind of like what Brian, my business partner, alluded to earlier. I mean, we're just basically trying to meet the same criteria in, that we did before. So
Yeah.
we're all set.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I'm gonna close DP 21-05 at 7:50. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Recording in progress.
Great, thank you, Scott. Welcome back to the Williston Development Review Board of March 26, 2024. It is 8:08. The board is out of deliberative session. Is there a motion for DP 21-18?
Yes, as authorized by Chapter 11 of the Williston Development Bylaw, I, Nathan Andrews, move that the Williston Development Review Board, having reviewed the applicant's questionnaire, the recommendations of the town staff, and having heard and duly considered the testimony presented at the public hearing of March 26, 2024, assign a score and make an allocation of dwelling units as shown in Table 2 and 3 above to DP 20-18, the annex, in accordance with the growth target and allocation rules of WDB Chapter 11.
Thank you, Nate. Is there a second?
Second.
John seconds it. Any discussion? Hearing none, yay or nay? Nate?
Yay.
Paul?
Yay.
Lisa?
Yay.
Scott is recused. Dave Turner?
Yay.
John Hemmelgarn?
Yay.
The chair is a yay, 6 in favor, none opposed, 1 individual recused himself, motion carries. Is there a motion for DP 20-18?
Yes. So as authorized by Chapter 11 of the Williston Development Bylaw, I, Scott Riley, move that the Williston Development Review Board, having reviewed the applicant's questionnaire, the recommendations of the town staff, and having heard and duly considered the testimony presented at the public hearing of March 26th, 2024, assign a score and make an allocation of dwelling units as shown in Table 2 and 3 above to DP 21-05 Sally's Way in accordance with
No,
the
you're
growth.
not doing Sally's Way, you're doing Summerfield.
You're doing Summerfield.
Well, thank you for reminding me.
Go up 6 inches
Yeah, I
and
know,
then
go
you're there.
up above. I'm reading the wrong darn.
Okay, that's okay, just start fresh.
Actually, it's the same thing, right? Okay, sorry, thank you. I was reading Sally's Way, that doesn't sound right. Okay, one more time, that was practice. As authorized by Chapter 11 of the Williston Development Bylaw, I, Scott Riley, move that the Williston Development Review Board, having reviewed the applicant's questionnaire, the recommendations of the town staff, and having heard and duly considered the testimony presented at the public hearing of March 26th, 2024, assign a score and make an allocation of dwelling units as shown in Table 2 and 3 above to DP 20-18 Summerfield in accordance with the growth target and allocation rules of WDB Chapter 11. We are adding findings of fact number 4. Emily, if you could put that up on the screen so I can read it. Number 4, DP 2018 is vested in the discretionary permit approval of April 26, 2022, and notice of decision, open parentheses, NOD, close parentheses, letter dated May 11th, 2022. Subsequent amendments are DP 20-18.1 and 20-18.2.
Thank you, Scott. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Dave Turner seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, yay or nay? Nate?
Yay?
Paul?
Yay.
Lisa?
Yay.
Scott?
Yay.
Dave?
Yay.
John Hemmelgarn recuses himself. The chair is a yay, 6 in favor, none opposed, 1 recused. Motion carries. Is there a motion for DP 21-05?
Yes. As authorized by Chapter 11 of the Williston Development Bylaw, I, Lisa Bradenharter, move that the Williston Development Review Board, having reviewed the applicant's questionnaire, the recommendations of the town staff, and having heard and duly considered the testimony presented at the public hearing of March 26, 2024, assign a score and make an allocation of dwelling units as shown in Table 2 and 3 above to DP 24-05 Sally's Way in accordance with the growth target and allocation rules of WDD Chapter 11.
Thank you, Lisa. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Scott seconds. Is there any further discussion? Yay or nay? Nate?
Yay?
Paul?
Yay.
Lisa?
Yay.
Scott?
Yay.
Dave?
Yay.
John?
Yay.
Chair is a yay, 7 in favor, none opposed, motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of March 12th, 2024?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Dave Turner seconds it. Any discussion?
I don't know if it's appropriate. I know there's a typo there, on one of them, on the decision. I'll fix it.
Let's read it into the record and be tight. So what is it?
It is the, Mountain View Road Taibi project. I believe I admitted
I can get those minutes.
the actual motion itself. It has the second underneath.
I might not have put things in it.
Let's not believe, let's state it. Okay,
Okay,
so,
it is the actual motion that is not included. The motion I know was made by.
yeah, let's pull it up.
While we're doing that, I just have one correction to the motion that I read, 2118, the annex. There was a typo in that, and I read it as DP 20-18, but the annex is DP 21-18.
Okay. Yep.
I'll fix that right now.
Okay, so Nate, you, read that. Who seconds it? Who seconded that one?
I seconded it.
Dave, you did? Do you accept that,
Yeah.
change? Is there any further discussion by, any members? Is there any change to how you voted for that? Okay. Thank you.
None over here either.
Good catch.
I'm not used to looking there.
For the last minutes, the motion was made by Paul. I did not include the motion text itself. I did include the vote. I'll add the text of the motion with Paul's name
Okay,
as
great.
standard.
And that was the one the vote was, that did not pass, correct?
That is correct.
Okay,
It was highly unusual. Paul made a motion and then didn't vote for it.
Okay.
I'm just following the Republican practice in the Congress right now.
okay, Paul, so you've made a motion to approve the minutes. There's a friendly amendment on the floor from staff. Do you accept that friendly amendment?
Absolutely.
And Dave, you seconded. Do you accept the friendly motion amendment?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, yay or nay on the amended minutes? Nate?
Yay?
Paul?
Yay.
Lisa?
Yay.
Scott?
Yay.
Dave?
Yay.
John?
Yay.
I'm going to abstain, I was not present. So 6 in favor, none opposed. I have abstained, motion carries. Okay, is there anything else to bring forth tonight?
Got nothing.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Lisa seconds it, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, thank you all.